It's just like I don't know. It's just watching you get flustered about these things is super funny.
What
Uh,
did you watch I mean, have you seen much of this show?
I finished season one. I'm actually watching season two,
When
Joe.
they start doing
Uh,
the like, where's your nipple contest? Like that's wild, man. Hello and welcome to another Damn Anime podcast. My name is Nick and I'll be your host. Here with me today is my good buddy Joe. Joe, how you doing?
I'm doing all right, man. Yeah, things are going smoothly. How about yourself? Things
Doing
good on your end?
doing good. I'm looking to pick up Hogwarts Legacy tomorrow morning. I got the day off, so I'm gonna be playing that. I think a little bit. Um, but other than that, don't have a whole lot going on. I've been hearing that it's good. I've been hearing it's like really, really good as far as just like a game goes. Some people are mad about some things about it, but overall, I'm hearing it's good. So hoping for that.
Yeah, I mean, it's been in production for a really long time. I remember when they first started talking about it like years ago. So when it was still back in the rumor mill. Yeah,
You know?
I'm personally just don't care. I kind of
Yeah,
gave up on Harry Potter a while ago. Never finished the yeah, finished the books, but never finished the film when they made seven into a two-parter. I'm like, yeah, I'm out. I'm done. I don't even need to watch the first half. Yeah, so that's where I ended my and then I watched the first of the prequels, Fantastic Beasts,
mm,
and went, "Yep, this is not good. All right, I'm out. Officially out." That was the last time I did anything with Harry Potter.
yeah. I don't really care about Harry Potter that much anymore. Um, I never did as much as other people do, but I just wanted to play a good game, and so I was like, well, it's supposed to be good. It's supposed to be one of the bigger games this year, so probably important to kind of talk about it for a game of the year, which we still haven't done for 2022, but it's neither here nor there. we'll, we'll get to it in we'll get to it in the spring, I guess. uh, but I've also been watching quite a bit of anime, though unfortunately not a whole lot that's totally new to this podcast. But yeah, I've been watching a couple things. When I've been watching a couple things, um, I have been watching. So I think I mentioned it last time. I've been watching Spy Classroom. I think I'd started it. I think I watched one episode, and then this. Since then, I watched three more, which I'm not caught up or anything, but I watched a bit more, and it's pretty good. It has that like what is it when anime has that Vaseline look on it? Like somebody rubbed Vaseline on the lens a little bit. It kind of has that sort of look to it. I don't know if it's because of the anime itself or because of High Dive or what, but um, it's it looks kind of like that. But otherwise, it's drawn pretty well. They cut corners sometimes, but I don't know. The story is it's like a it's like a reverse harem. If I could put any name to it, and by reverse harem I mean like it's still a harem, but it's like instead of being from the guy's perspective, it's from like all the girls' perspective. Because like the guy is like he's like their boss. It's sort of like Charlie's Angels, except you actually see him, but he's like their boss, and he's like a better spy than all of them. But and he doesn't really relate to the like the audience, I guess. And they just like look up to him and like worship him like crazy. It's anyway, it's a strange kind of harem, and it's I don't know, it's just okay. It's not really doing anything particularly special, so I don't know how much more I'm gonna watch of it, but I watched some of it, and I wanted to tell you about that.
I was gonna say it's still a harem. A reverse harem is generally considered when the Otome games where all the guys fawn over the one girl.
Yeah, I know, but like, what
Um,
would you call it when it's like a harem, but it's like more from the girls' perspective than the guys? I feel like that's too long of a thing to have to say every time. There should be like a something that we have like as a society we should come together and decide what to
it's just a
call
harem from a harem focusing on female perspective. There you
like
go.
like a female POV harem, Is that what you'd call it?
Yeah, but if you Google that, it'd probably pull up something completely
It's
different.
we're not
So
gonna
I would
Google
just
anything.
do not search
You
that.
can't Google anything on this show. That's forbidden. No Googling. You better know the dang website because things can go hairy really quickly. I'm watching some other stuff, but I know you've been watching one or two that are pretty interesting. What do you have you got?
Yeah, so I started. I don't know if I mentioned it last time, but I started watching the magical revolution of the reincarnated princess and the genius young lady. I hate these titles.
You did good that
So
time though. You did good. Pre-show, you stumbled, but that was good.
I didn't. Well, I had to actually click on the link to make the whole title appear.
Yeah.
So that's part of the stumble there. But yes, it's about essentially girl gets reincarnated fantasy world where everyone can use magic except for her, and she happens to be like the country's princess, and she decides to find workarounds to try to use magic. So she starts using monster stones essentially as like replacement magic catalysts, and she starts making modern tools and modern amenities with with those stones. So she essentially makes like a Japanese or like the hot water kettle powered by a stone. So everyone's like, the king and stuff is like, wow, this is really convenient. You can make hot water and have your tea anytime you want, essentially. But she's making, modern things like that. She makes a lightsaber. Uh, so because she cannot use magic, and so she makes a blade sharp enough to cut through pretty much anything. She wants to fly, so she decides to equip a magic stone to a broom, and so she can fly around like a witch. Uh, yeah, it's silly in that respect. Essentially, there's a scene early on where there's another the other main female lead is being rejected in the Otome game fashion, where she is currently betrothed to the prince, and he happens to be fawning over this commoner girl, and they do the whole dramatic we're at the party, I denounce you in front of everybody. There's other male guys here who you don't have a clue of any of them, but they're like, yeah, you've been bullying this poor girl and you're a bad person. Um, and at that moment during a test flight, the main girl decides, she accidentally crashes into this party through the window, completely bounces off the floor, and interrupts the dramatic like moment. And she quickly looks around, assesses the situation, and goes, "Oh, wait. So this is what's going on. My brother here, the prince, is rejecting his fiance and going out with this other girl. All right, well, I'm gonna take your ex fiance. She's coming with me, and I'm gonna tell dad." And then she bolts on the broom. Turns out the other girl is the prime minister's kid. So it's but she's the genius young lady. So she can use magic really well, do all the magics, different styles, and so the princess essentially looks up to her because she's, every time she uses magic, she seems it to be like wonderfully beautiful, and she's very envious. While the prime minister's daughter is very jealous of the princess for being a free spirit. She's able to do what she wants. She's just not, bound by anything because she gave up her like claim to the throne, and she's just doing her own research essentially. So, yeah, it's a fun little twist on the more basic stuff. Uh, they are the main princess is also an adventurer because you have to be in an isekai world, but she does it to get the magic stones essentially. So that's part of the reason why. And so she's actually a pretty accomplished adventurer. And yeah, they I just got I'm like through episode 6 now, and there was a big quote unquote big battle, and it shows some different sides, I guess, I wasn't expecting. She takes weird, she's actually trying to give herself magical abilities, so she's doing experiments on herself,
Mhm.
and it's kind of neat. The extreme, and like that's the whole thing is her passion is like she's so dedicated to this that she's willing to go through all this crap. At the same time, she's kind of, she's just kind of mad. She's a little nuts because she's like, this is my passion, this is how I feel that everyone should use magic for the greater good, kind of to like to preserve the smiles of people type of deal. But at the same time, she's like, and I'm going to do something highly dangerous just to get my goal. um Yeah, so it's a little bit of a, it's like a soft Yuri anime, where, like, because the girls are going to be more than friends, they kind of they do a lot of flirting, and there's a lot of um, admiration slash blushing going on. So I'm like, all right, standard fare, I guess.
That's another kind
But
of a weird thing. Go ahead.
overall, it's pretty good though. I think it's like an 8,
Really?
7.
Okay.
Well, it's like it's a for there's not a lot that's super great, but it's just like, I guess I shouldn't say it's an 8, but it's like, I would say it's like a 7, and it's just like it's worth a watch. I wouldn't necessarily go out and recommend people to watching it, but I would totally say you're not wasting your time to. Um, but if any of those things sound interesting to you, then yeah, by all means, totally do it. But um, I guess if it's an 8, I would have to say, dude, you got to watch this. But at the
Yeah.
same time, it has potential. Some of the weird stuff, like some of there's a couple scenes I like. I'm kind of interested where this might go, but chances are they won't push any envelopes, which kind of will probably drop it down to a 6 in the future. But right now, I'm like, yeah, it's a solid 7. Like, it's worth. I don't feel like I'm wasting my time.
Yeah.
I felt like it could have been in the beginning. I was really like, I don't know, but I've gone through like I think I'm halfway through episode 6. Uh, I just wish that there's more to it, and I think that's what's gonna make it, like, suffer, is I don't think there'll be enough flushed out.
Yeah. Yeah. We gotta talk sometime about what we think qualifies, or like how our scoring system works, because I know like it's very individualistic, but I think for me there's a lot of like there's very few tens, and I only kind of recently came to that conclusion. And I think there's like more nines, but like nines are up there, like it's kind of all time. But like eight would be like, hey, that's our like you said, like you're recommending it, you like telling people, hey, you got to watch this, um, and then below that kind of changes around. But I mean, it sounds pretty good. I was kind of wondering like, it's something of one genre that we don't really talk about that much. At least I haven't really talked about that much for anime, is the D&D genre. Like nobody really discusses like how that's come up recently. A lot of times it gets mixed in with like isekai, but it's definitely like its own genre, like Ningen Fushin, Saito, um, Goblin
You're
Slayer.
just talking about fantasy then? You're not when you say D&D, you throw me off. Yes, well, there's, like, so much high fantasy,
No, no, I mean, like you're kind of right, but like as like somebody that plays like tabletop games, like I know you do too. They are like tabletop games are like a certain way more than like even video games are. Like you have like this role and this role and this role, and yeah, video games kind of borrow from that, but like it is like the stuff that I'm seeing in those shows that I just mentioned are like taken directly from D&D specifically. Like in Ningen they have a dragonborn chick, and she's like changed, but like definitely like a dragon woman. And then the other ones, they just feel way more like cookie cutter into a D&D situation than I think old anime was, and in more so than they would be compared to like any video game. It's
I see what you're talking about. I think when it comes to anime currently that has that fantasy highlight that is more humorous, I think it actually fits with D&D more. But the concept of D&D being in anime has been around for a very long time. Record of Lodoss Wars being one of the earlier ones is literally off of a D&D side campaign that was made.
yeah.
It was it was a module that they created, and those characters were then later turned into anime, or manga and anime. So it's kind of that one's actually directly from it. So that's where you have you have your entire party makeup, from the thief to the high elf and everything in between. So it's kind of
But I mean,
but as
like in these numbers, like I just don't remember in the past seeing so many anime coming out side by side that all fit that mold. You know?
We're also running into the all-time peak of isekai and reincarnated genre like in general. So you need uh it's harder to do with sci-fi, I think, and
Yeah,
so it's always the fallback safety net is always the
fantasy
fantasy
world.
tropes because it's easier to do that because you don't have to make up anything. You actually have to come up with original concepts if you're doing sci-fi, but if you're doing fantasy, well, it's all laid like literally everything is cookie cutter. If you're going to do it, poorly. But then you can go ahead and make this a lot better by, creating it's the writing that differentiates everything. Like in the case of Saito, you're like, oh yeah, well, we're just gonna make a normal average dude, yeah, handyman style. Like he has no special powers. He doesn't get a power boost. He doesn't get any of those cheats. Because a lot of these are straight up power fantasies,
Hmm.
like or like I fell into my MMO and at least my max level character and all my legendary equipment that I paid for is all transferred over, so now I'm OP as hell. Um, it's yeah, it's fun to see that to a certain extent, but like at least something you don't see as much anymore. There was a little uptick was the extremely OP and super confident male because they got tired of seeing the weak dweeby guy who can't decide anything,
Yeah.
and so that started becoming really popular. Which I didn't mind having an OP uh, character so long as they had the confidence to to
I
back
mean, a
themselves
character with a
up.
backbone is definitely more preferred than just like some, freaking. I don't know. I can't think of the kid. What's the kid in Neon Genesis Evangelion's name? Uh,
Shinji.
Yeah,
Yeah,
Shinji.
you don't want a whiny git is essentially what you don't
Just
want one freaking out, crying all the time.
yeah,
And
just
then
something
because
with a
they
little
end
bit
up
of a
going
spine.
psychotic in the end.
Yeah,
Yeah.
they always go. They always go crazy in the end. Yeah. So anyway, I was just wondering if that was kind of a thing, but it sounds like it's been going back a little bit further. But you're right. I think the tropes, like the common fantasy tropes, help along a isekai or reincarnation anime. So that's kind of cool. But anyway, I was just kind of it's just sort of a weird thing I noticed because I've only recently started playing D&D over the past couple of years, and I'd never noticed that in anime. So I don't know, maybe it's just me, but I've been watching a couple other things too. Uh, Trying to think. Oh, I started watching Campfire Cooking in Another World with My Absurd Skill. That's pretty good. It's pretty good. It's quaint and I don't know. The I'm through episode 3 and the Fenrir is funny. He's probably like the best part of that, I guess. Eh, I don't know. It's well drawn, and they seem to really enjoy the animating of the food creation. Um, and it's a nice.
Essentially, those who like cooking or the food portion of Monster Hunter, this is like right up their
Oh
alley.
yeah,
This is just food porn.
pretty much, pretty much. So yeah, they do a pretty good job with that. But it's not like Saito, but it sort of reminds me of Handyman Saito because the guy doesn't have any special powers really. He has more of a special ability because he gets the ability to do that like online shopping, and I think it's pretty much it.
That's in a handful of manga. Around that same time, there was a couple of them that all dropped with the online store in their special inventory, and it was like
That's
some of them had the ability to like, well, if you need to do a currency exchange, you can do that too, and it's just like really.
yeah, that seems like yeah, but I mean like I mean he cooks this food and the people are blown away by how good it is, and I was like okay. I mean, I guess among peasants and stuff, they would think that the food is really good, especially because it's like chemically sweetened and salted. Um, but I don't know. I'm also kind of like people back then would have thought that our food is insanely sweet and insanely salty. They would have been like, "This is terrible. This is disgusting."
I can debate that because salt was a high price commodity, so everything would have been more bland. I mean,
That's what I'm saying.
that's
Yeah,
but the thing is, I don't think it. I think just a little salt would have blown them away, though. That's the thing. It's just like when it comes to in fact, that was in a couple of these different ones that they're like, well, I have this market. How am I going to make money? I'll be I'll be a tradesman, and I'll be a merchant. And then, well, I'll sell salt. There was literally one of them. And he goes,
I
and
don't.
he did it for a little bit. And he goes, I have to stop this because I'm literally breaking the market,
Yeah.
and I'm about to cause big trouble.
I
Um,
don't think that we're disagreeing. Like I'm saying, like the kind of food that this guy in Campfire Cooking is making is like from the store, which is super salted and super sweetened for our palates. But in medieval times, someone who got that sauce from the store would be like, this is like, oh, they would like just make this face because it would be so sweet to them because they're just not used to it, and salty. It'd just be so salty because they're just not used to it at all. They're used to like really bland food. Um,
I'm glad you made the thumbnail there.
just- let's do it at the same time. So I,
All right, yeah, but yeah,
I
so
like the.
I don't know. I would think I can see where you're coming from on that, but at the same time, I also think that it'd be well received. I honestly believe.
Yeah,
Like
maybe.
you give them our normal ice cream, vanilla ice cream would crazy on both, and yeah, but at the same time, they would probably after the initial shock. I don't think it's like the
They would
one taste of it is like
they would start to
they
crave
would
it like us.
yeah.
They would start to crave it. But yeah, like the Fenrir's great. He's a funny dude, and just and then like I got to the part where spoilers, but he cooks the Wagyu beef and gives and like makes it all up nice and gives it to the Fenrir, and then like he like examines the stats of the Fenrir, and he's like 50% like on everything. He's like, I'm gonna go kill like a bunch of crap, but he like just like murders all these OP demons and monsters and brings it back for the dude to butcher and put away. And then that was one thing that was weird was when he had to butcher the orc, and it's like really, I mean, it's not a human, but it's pretty human looking, and he's like, oh, this is kind of, I was kind of like, this is getting sort of weird. I don't know about this.
Well, see, so orcs in Japanese culture is more of like a pig variant
Yeah.
than the orc that we have from Lord of the Rings.
Mm.
So that's one of the big differences. That's why Ganon in the original Legend of Zelda is represented looking more like a pig, has the snouts and has pointy ears.
Mhm.
Because that is an orc is a pig monster essentially. It's a bipedal pig, and I don't know where that originally concept came from, but that's just as far back as I know. That's how they've always shown orcs. So goblins are still goblins, but for some reason, orcs were always traditionally done as a giant pig.
Like the guy had been cutting up, giant birds and like other demon looking things, but the orc he was looking at it was like, this is kind of like a person. It was just, but then they ended up eating it and it was really tasty. So he was like, oh, this is like really delicious. But yeah. So anyway, I've been watching that and I watched another episode of Don't Toy With Me, Miss Nagatoro. That show, I don't know. I
Have
watched
you just skipped the season 2 then? Is
no,
that what
no.
you've done?
I was
Oh,
like, I was, I was, I was working out, and so I was like, well, I need something that is dubbed, and I was like, well, I might want to actually. There's not that many episodes, so I might want to actually watch this, and then it kind of got reminded of like why I didn't watch any more of it, back when I watched the first episode, because the second episode, it's just raunchy, man. And if they were in college, it would be okay. But they're like really they're like in high school, like early high school. Uh it's just and it's funny, but it's like it's just like woo. What are we doing here,
so
guys?
prudish. It's really cute. It's just like I don't know. It's just watching you get flustered about these things is super funny. Um,
Did you watch I mean, have you seen much of this show?
I finished season 1. I'm actually watching season 2
When
now.
they start doing
Uh,
the like where's your nipple contest, like that's wild, man. And and then the like dojinshi vampire thing, and then she reads it and she's like, that was actually pretty good. I don't know. Maybe I gotta watch some more of it because
It gets
it
better
it
or worse depending on how you look at it.
or worse.
Um,
Oh man. I mean, like, I mean, really, it's not. It's not. In some ways, it's worse, but it's not much worse than My Dress Up Darling, because those were in high school too. But like, they were at least like later high school, and they were like tall. So it like these the Miss Nagatoro is they just look young. It's weird.
so the art style changes your perspective. Okay, I can see that.
It's part of it.
I'm pretty sure. Dress Up Darling, they were still first years. I don't remember, but I thought they were.
Yeah, I
Um,
mean, you could be. I don't keep track, but it's there's an aesthetic that is more mature in Dress Up Darling.
yes. So you know, it's like the whole yeah, it suits the comedy well, I think, especially when given like her manic face that they often give. I think it's you know, this is more of a slapstick type of show. Um,
The guy
I
is
think
just
My Dress Up Darling hits a couple more adult topics that I found to be hilarious.
dude. That
But yeah,
episode two is like episode two is too much. It's like we're gonna make our money. This is where we're gonna sell figures. Um, in Dress Up Darling.
but yeah, all right. Well, I'm glad. I hope you continue watching it because it'd be fun to see your reactions
I don't
for sure.
know.
You should just live stream you watching the show.
Just like that the whole time.
Just watching you like blush and hide and peek your eyes through.
Pretty
There you
much.
go.
That's pretty much.
I just gave you the second thumbnail for the show. There you go.
I'll use that one too. I'll spice it together. Like when at one point she like grabs his crotch and she's like, "Are you hard?" It's like, what's going on? Stop it! So God. Anyway, what else have you been watching, man?
Yeah, like I said, I've been watching season two of Nagatoro. Uh, they let's see. I've been also following with the was it Ice Blade Sorcerer. That one they've finally they've made some changes that I've voiced my opinions on. I'm like, you know, I understand why they've changed some stuff, but at the same time, I feel that it kind of hurt it a little bit. But they're getting to a new story arc that I'm actually kind of curious how they play out. So the most recent episode ends with the main character trying to infiltrate another school, and I think that's going to play out pretty well. Uh, the nice part is they've already in I think like you know a handful of episodes, 6 episodes, they've already caught up to the manga for the most part. I mean, the manga is just a little bit further, but the fan translation was such hot trash that it was almost like illegible. And I'm just super glad that I don't have to I just won't read it anymore because that's what happens is sometimes some manga will get you so interested in it and then they'll end and then it's like manga bait. You know,
Oh,
they make you find like now I have to finish this. Like sports ones are very notorious for that because you know they won't finish the series, but they're like you know Ippo for example. Uh, that one makes you like there's so much more to go on that. I think that's like a couple hundred chapters at least. Like it's a long running series. Um, so you most definitely want to know what happens after that. Other ones, you know, unfortunately, like oh yeah, I've been reading this for a while. The anime comes through, blows past what I've been reading, and I've been reading it for years, and they literally blow past it. I'm like, all right, well now that I know what's going to happen, I'm done. Cool, you know. I literally, you know, you just drop that manga, and that's the case of this one I feel, or at least I may come back to it way later in the future if they finally you know however long it takes to pass the anime. But unfortunately, who knows? And then sometimes they diverge. You know, the anime will follow with it for the beginning, and because the anime or the manga, the source material isn't ready yet, they're like, okay, we're gonna change up the ending, and they've done that for like um was it Full Metal Alchemist, the first anime series, starts off very similar, ends very different. And that's why they made the Brotherhood, which is more closely to the manga, and both are actually really good. I highly recommend. I mean, if you can only watch one, watch Brotherhood, but if you could, watch the first series and then watch the second series, and you'll appreciate them both in their own way.
Yeah.
Um, so it's it's like reading, it's literally like reading a book like Harry Potter, for example, and then watching the movie. You want to watch the movie first because it's good by themselves. But if then you can read the book and be happy with the book. But if you do it opposite, you'll just be angry, um, because they've had to cut out certain things or made them shortcuts and so forth. So, but the Ice Blade Sorcerer, I'm looking forward to how that's playing out. They've done a lot of good things with it overall. Um, I like it. Uh, despite my gripes. I mean, so
Yeah,
I'm gonna finish that series.
I was wondering, like, when a manga translation, fan translation is bad, is that because like it's bad because it's like bad English, right? So is that because there's a person on the other side who doesn't understand English very well and is trying to translate it? Or because, like, to me it's like if you speak English, you speak enough Japanese to or read enough Japanese to be able to translate the manga, it's like, well, I know this is the general idea, and I'm just going to make sure that the English is well written. Like
Yeah. So usually, what happens with the fans translations
translation.
are
Yeah.
they end up being so it's a weird network of how they do this because people get, I guess, different groups will take a credit and be like, hey, like, I don't know exactly to what extent, but it seems like one group will start to translate a particular manga, and then people really won't touch that until they are done, or until maybe, like, for example, it's been a while and they've just kind of gone dark. So then someone might try to pick it up afterwards. But for the most part, they don't. I don't really see a lot of multiple versions of like different groups trying to translate the same chapters. So they kind of, I don't know if it's a matter of mutual respect or whatnot, but there's people end up a lot of times buying or paying for the chapters, the raw files. So like with the originals or without any language, but what they usually do is it's the original Japanese, the uploaded scans, and then you'll have people who job to translate. You'll have people job to typeset and input it in, and other people to do the redrawing and cleaning up of the because sometimes you'll notice where if the text goes off out of the speech bubble, and then if it's poorly redrawn or typeset, then
Hmm.
what they'll do is they might white it out, but there's no actual drawing, so you can see like there used to be something here, and it's actually like crossing over into the actual illustration,
Right.
but they haven't updated, like they had no one went through the extra effort. So that's it's smaller teams or people are new to it. Yeah, it's a rough start there. There, different, some groups are quote unquote more professional. A lot of these people are funded by like Patreon or something like that. Uh, and that's what they kind of help, I don't necessarily think they make a
Offset the
living off of
costs.
it.
Yeah, they're just doing it for
Yeah.
fun.
Yeah, because people are paying for these original uploaded files. Um, and I'm not sure what the cost goes into that, but I don't know. Every now and then you get something that looks like it's a Google translation, just automated machine would be quote unquote satisfactory to a certain extent, because sometimes you'll get Japanese kanji or that will confuse the characters, being instead of being like sun, it might translate it to gold or something like that.
Yeah.
It may not, depending on the context. uh so that's where the people come in, like, okay, well, you got to actually look this up and there's other programs that do a better job. And
Yeah.
then when it comes to like the poor work done in the Ice Blade Sorcerer, like that last one, the typeset was all caps except for I, and I was, the base of I was as tall as all the other caps, but then it just had a floating dot above the entire word every time they used the letter I, and it was just terrible looking. It's not a it wasn't a really particularly good font, and everyone's conversation, everything, the font was the text was always the same.
Yeah.
Like if you do a good job, you change it up depending on uh the scene, depending on maybe who's
Who's
talking.
yeah.
There might be a little more effort, but this also looked like it was translated. Sometime, and I've seen this done with other ones where it's like, we couldn't get the original raw files, but we got the Chinese version. So it was something dubbed into Chinese.
So
Well,
it's-
then they'll have to do the extra effort from dubbing it from Chinese to English.
Yeah.
So it's already twice removed, and which is fine. But this looks like it was maybe two or three, probably 3, 4 times, removed. So it just seems so the wording and like the actual sentence structure seems really wrong. So maybe it was twice removed plus the native, whoever's doing it is not a native English speaker,
Hmm.
and it was just like, wow, this sentence doesn't make sense, or this word literally just has there's no meaning for it. Like, so you're not really sure where it's coming from, and it was so bad to the point where like, yeah, I have to bounce. And then I came back like 6 months later, and they had like 2 more chapters, and I just like, this is same garbage. Look to the bottom, and everyone's just cursing like uh the group that's translating it. I don't know if it's necessarily a single person. They usually just go by whatever moniker. And yeah, so that's, but no, there's like some couple groups out there like, oh, score. Yeah, this team is really solid. They're doing really good. But then for some one reason or another, they were translating something for the first, year or two, and then now they just bounce. They're not doing it anymore. Whether it's because, but you never know why. It's not
Yeah.
like, so sometimes, it just could be we're not getting enough likes on this one. It's not as popular, or maybe they lose a member or something like that. Unknown. So that's it. Kind of, it stinks that way because, yeah, it's just like, you'll get someone new, and then sometimes you'll be like, well, this one hasn't been updated in a while, so you'll just get someone posting just solo, being like, hey, I've never done this before. Don't skewer me alive. I'm literally just doing this because
Somebody.
I want to get this out there. I'm curious for what happens next myself. If you hate it so much, you can by all means take it. You do the
Yeah. Go
rest,
ahead and give
you
it a
know.
try yourself.
So you always give them a little slack because you're like, okay, I understand.
Yeah. I
Um,
mean, we're kind of beggars here. Can't really be choosy on it. On a lot of this translation stuff, but yeah, it's. I was just kind of wondering about that. That's because it's just sort of an odd thing to me. It must end up being with someone who's not a native speaker who's trying to get that stuff done. But I mean, besides that, like I don't know. Like I was thinking about there's a couple more I could kind of talk about, but they're not really that big of a deal. Talk. I'm still watching Blue Lock. That's still really good. What would you say is the best thing you watched in the past 2 weeks?
Unfortunately, I haven't watched a lot because a lot of the English dubs actually for some reason came to a weird halt.
Oh yeah.
Um, so there wasn't a lot of major updates. So a little disappointing in that front. And I just haven't had really, I'm starting to watch them with my wife as well. So it's one of those things that I can't, uh, I mean, some of them, I guess I will go off on my own and watch the most recent episode, and then rewatch the older episode, but in dubbed. But for the most part, I'm not going to waste most of my time double upping up on these episodes.
Mm,
Uh, so I don't know. Like before, I mentioned, the princess and the genius, magical girl. That one's okay, but uh, the Legend of Heroes, Trials of Cold Steel. I watched the first 3 episodes of that,
mm.
and I'm not 100% sure on it, but it has me interested, and, some of their terms and things they say, um, I'm not sure if they're playing off of, like, I don't know how the world works as far as the anime goes, because
Yeah.
they talk about battling and getting experience, like, "You don't have enough experience to blah, blah, blah." I'm like, are they talking about leveling up experience, or are they talking about just overall, like, combat experience as a soldier? So, it was one of those, like, weird scenarios where
Like
I'm like,
it
you can
is
see them leveling up in that, series.
it is like a video game ass anime, but at the very least it has a story that it wants to tell. Like it's like, well, there's this piece and there's this piece and there's this, and it doesn't really, it's not cookie cutter like you're used to, at least not in the modern way that anime is going. So, but it's like there's pieces we're setting up and we're going to do something with them. So for that, I do kind of like it. I've only watched like the first 2 episodes, but yeah, I can see why you'd be intrigued by it. So
Yeah, how about yourself, man? What was the best piece,
I don't
you
know.
watched this last couple weeks?
I've been looking at some different things, and from this season, um, I'm really enjoying Tomo-chan as a girl. Still keeping up with that, and it's about the same as it was last time, but it's very cute, very quaint. I like the side characters a lot. They're like nobody in that show is annoying, which in a show like that it's very easy for a character to be annoying. It's
This
pretty.
last episode was actually really good. Now that you mention it, I forgot about that.
I'm on the one. I just started this one. Where spoilers, but it's at the very beginning. It's Tomo-chan's birthday, and okay, so is that the most recent one?
At least dubbed it is, yes.
Okay, yeah. So I started to watch that, and I had to turn it off to go do something else. So I haven't had a chance to finish that yet. But yeah, that show is pretty good. That and maybe Saito, but I think Tomo-chan I look forward to just a little bit more. And I texted you about this, but I really love the ending theme of that. It's very catchy, and you let me know that it was that the person singing it is the voice actress from the show.
I'm almost positive that's what they're going for. I
Okay.
haven't actually watched the original. I didn't voice check, like, fact check that, but they've done it with other anime where they've had the Seiryu, the voice actor or actress in this case, do the ending theme song, and there's you can tell because she's trying to sing in that masculine feminine voice.
Yeah.
And
After you said that,
it's part of the charm. Yeah.
yeah, after you said that, I was like, well, yeah, that's exactly what she would like. It's what I've only been watching it in English, so I didn't really put two and two together there. But I was like, oh, well, I bet that is kind of a masculine sounding voice. So I bet it is. I bet Joe's right. It probably is that voice actress. But it's a good, catchy song, and it's fun. The whole show is fun. So yeah, that's probably what I would elect to be the best of the past 2 weeks. So anyway, man, it's been good. It's been good. I'm looking forward to watching some more. There's still a bunch of stuff I started, but I just haven't felt like getting back to. Kuba won't let me be invisible. It was pretty cute. I watched the first episode of that a while ago. Probably keep watching that. Yeah, there's a bunch of good stuff.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, that's the problem with too much anime. Not enough time. So, I guess first world problems, right? So,
Yeah, yeah. First world problems, you know. But anyway, I think that's going to do it for us here today. Thank you for joining us, and we'll see you next time.
yeah, y'all take it easy.
Bye.